Today, we're taking a break from talking about online dangers to focus on something just as important: offline safety. As parents, it's so easy to often feel unprepared when scary situations happen in the real world, isn't it? Whether it's an argument at the mall that turns violent, or an emergency at a sporting event, or at your child's school. My guest today is an industry leader in safety and security training for schools, businesses, and organizations. Adam Coughran is a Southern California law enforcement veteran who used his expertise to found Safe Kids Incorporated, an organization dedicated to helping deter crime and mitigate violence in pre-K through 12 schools. For his work in schools across the country, Adam was named 2023's Man of the Year in Education by the Top 100 Registry and 2022's Who's Who in America by the Marquee Publication Board. He's received lots of different awards from the U.S. Secret Service, the U.S. Department of Labor, the United States Congress, the California State Assembly, and Senate, as well as multiple other organizations. And in addition to that, he's recognized as one of the go-to experts for national media outlets, appearing on NBC's Today Show, ABC's Good Morning America, Fox's Nancy Grace, Entertainment Tonight, CBS This Morning, Spectrum News, and numerous live other interviews. He's also a contributing author to Newsweek, Forbes, and Fast Company magazine. And I will say, in addition to this, overall, a really amazingly nice guy. So we're really excited to have his expertise here on the show. In this episode, we talk about what most parents don't realize about safety blind spots, how to have conversations with your kids without scaring them, and one simple action you can take today to create a family safety plan, plus some bonus ideas of things that maybe you want to ask your school. Welcome to Keep Kids Safe, the podcast that gives Christian parents hope-filled, practical ways to protect their kids in today's world. I'm your host, Sarah Panus, a Christian mom, child safety advocate, and content strategist. Twice a month, we shine light on the dangers facing kids today, from online exploitation to trafficking and other offline safety issues, to equip you with the tools to respond with faith, wisdom, and confidence. You'll hear powerful stories, expert insights, and simple tips that will help you raise kids who are safe, strong, and supported. And I'm right here learning along with you, because protecting our children shouldn't feel overwhelming, and you don't have to do this alone. So let's jump into my conversation with Adam Coughran of Safe Kids, Inc. As we always do, we start with a Bible verse to root ourselves in this conversation. And the one that I picked for today is from Proverbs chapter 27, verse 12. And it says, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." And I think that this is just a great reminder that being prepared is actually biblical and it's smart, right? We don't want to keep going and pay the penalty. We want to see that danger and take refuge and be smart about it. So that's what this whole conversation is going to route around. Adam, let's just call it out. Parents want to keep their kids safe, but most of us, I would say, feel completely unprepared if something really, truly scary happens. What do you think are the biggest blind spots that you see parents have when it comes to safety that we should be thinking about?
When it comes to parents, when we talk about the blind spots, we don't know what we don't know. And what I find in working with so many parents is that a lot of them have expertise in all kinds of things and what their profession is, and maybe raising kids and all the amazing things, but they don't necessarily have any context or even really themselves know what to do in some sort of dangerous situation. And we say dangerous situations in the news media, and the keywords and the buzzwords are active shooter and school safety. And those are the things that get people's attention. But if we really look at the reality of things, it's just kind of really dangerous, or maybe even potentially violent situations. It could be an arguing match or a shouting match at the mall that escalates into a fist fight. It could be at a soccer game and someone gets upset and pulls some sort of weapon, maybe like a knife or a baseball bat. Right? There's all these little things that happen every day across the country that never make the news, that maybe no one was hurt, but there's very simple or easy things that you can do to get away or to stay safe. And I think so many parents, unless they've had training at their job, or maybe they were in law enforcement or in the military or something, there's not a lot of context or knowledge on, number one, what to do. And even if you know what to do, how do you share that with your child, especially if they're a younger child, without the loss of innocence or scaring them? Or even in my own household, it's like, oh, it's just dad. Like, we're not going to listen to dad, right? Because why would we listen to him? And so there's these compounding challenges. Yet in any sort of maybe potentially violent situation, or the perception that it could become violent, you have anxiety and fear and adrenaline and all the things that happen as an adult. but your child also has the same. And so if both are operating from a place of fear or a place of just reactionary without really knowing what to do or without a plan or without having talked about it or any of those things, that's where we start to see some of the mounting concerns and some of the mounting issues when something that maybe wasn't, at the end of the day, something super dangerous became more dangerous because we didn't know what to do.
And you have a training program called H.E.R.O. And I've gone through the H.E.R.O training program as part of my kids' school. It was required. I'm a volunteer at my kids' school. All the volunteers, all the teachers, all the educators, anyone that's in the school has to go through this H.E.R.O training as well as the kids themselves. They go through it and it's a great setup. And we're going to talk about that. And it really changed how I think about safety in those environments. It was so eye opening. It was so informative, especially as a parent volunteer at school. So, can you break down and talk to us about what HERO stands for? It's an acronym, and how it
Mhm.
actually helps kids and adults feel ready instead of feeling helpless?
Yeah, so HERO is an acronym for hide, escape, run, and overcome. And when we think about the very just core basic safety principles, or what's called an options-based response to some potentially violent situation, those four responses are usually one or a combination thereof will keep you far safer. When we talk about little kids and preschoolers and the young ones, HERO becomes hide, escape, run, obey, and obey right away. And the thought process behind that is for young kids, all we want them to do is stop, look, and listen to you as the parent or their safe, trusted adult, if it's a teacher or a babysitter, to make the cognitive, very real-time decision to stay safe. Well, are we going to hide? Are we going to escape? What are we going to do? But the acronym, by and large, for most school-age kids and well as adults, is that kind of that options-based response. And the way we looked at it is we wanted something really easy. Well, many parents may have taken run, hide, fight training at their office or watched the video, or their local law enforcement have come in and there was some acronyms, something other than just lockdown or hide, right? We talk about the options-based response. It's just a fancy term for doing something other than just simply hiding under a desk or locking a door of a room. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution to a very complex problem. And so when we think about HERO concepts, it's empowering people, again, kids, teachers, very simple things that they can do to stay safe regardless of the situation. You know, kind of in the school safety world, there's been so much weight and conversation around school safety and practicing lockdowns in their classroom and practicing where to go safe on campus. Well, that's great for maybe the 6 hours or 5 hours or 7 hours that a student's on campus, but doesn't account for on the way to school, on the way home from school. It doesn't account for nighttime. It doesn't account for weekends or vacations or the summer. It doesn't account for parents. It doesn't account for a lot of different things. And so if we've spent a lot of time practicing a lockdown drill in school, well, that's great. It's like practicing a fire drill. You learn to leave the room and you stand out on the playground or you stand on the field. And all those things are great. One of the things that we really thought about in developing and trying to figure out a way to talk to kids that isn't scary, and parents and teachers as well, is what's something that's a transferable skill? What's something that is what we call like a life skill that you're going to take with you far beyond grade school and maybe even if you go to college or trade school or right in the workforce? What's something that like a fire drill, or if you grew up in different parts of the country, that, you know, a tornado drill, earthquake drill, those inherent skills that we all have as adults that we learned as kids, what's one more skill that we can take that we can use to stay safe? And so the thought process of simple, easy, reactionary, and something that works beyond the classroom is really the design behind the program, and an acronym that we really didn't reverse engineer. We came up with all kind of the words, and when we started putting all the words together, it ended up as HERO, which kind of is serendipitous to the topic and everything else we're talking about. But we wanted something simple that was easily retainable, that was, you know, sticky, that a kindergartner could understand, or a parent could understand, or really anyone could understand.
Yeah, and what's great is the training itself, it is by age group. So like you mentioned, like if they're real little on up to if they're older. I myself have my kids are going to be going, as I record this, going into 5th grade and going into 9th grade. So I've experienced my kids talking about the elementary version as well as like the middle school. And then now my son will be going into high school. It's customized based on their age and what they're able to do, but it makes a ton of sense. And as I've gone through it, it's helped me be aware of, as I'm volunteering at the school, if something were to happen, now I know what to do and I know how to think about it.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things to that, right? We talk about each of the HERO concepts being equally important because there could be a situation where you don't hide. There is nowhere to hide. You're at a sporting event in the bleachers. We're not hiding anywhere, right? That's going to be maybe escape and then ultimately run. And that might be the only two things you do. So we talk about each of those is something that's important. Now, do we typically hide more often, i.e. lockdown drills, precautionary, those? Absolutely, right? And we spend an exorbitant amount of time talking about hide and the skills behind it, because that we find is the most common, and in a universally, all things being equal, school setting, it's usually the safest as well. So there's a lot of data that kind of informs those types of things. Of all the parts of the acronym, the one that maybe isn't the easiest to understand is overcome. And we found something pretty interesting, not only in the development, but also in real life practice. During the course of my law enforcement career, I was teaching Run, Hide, Fight, and I was teaching a bunch of the different acronyms long before Safe Kids and H.E.R.O and everything. And one thing I discovered, especially when it came just to everyday ordinary citizens, and it could be teachers and it could be just folks at work, is that Run, Hide, Fight was really just run, hide. Because most people are violence averse. They've never punched somebody. They've never been punched. And to tell someone, hey, there's someone who's armed with some sort of weapon, and what we want you to do is to go fight this person, is a very, very tall order for a lot of people. And just from a common sense point of view, a lot of people are like, I don't think I want to do that. In the development of this, we know that there are times, again, last resort, and there's no other option. We are stuck with about one option at this point, that we had to find something that made more sense. And we went back kind of from a biblical sense, even like where throughout the Bible has something overcome, like the most common, right? David and Goliath, right? Kind of just the most common, kind of well-known. But if you talk about the tonality with the language and overcome, what are the things that we overcome in life, right? Adversity and fear and anxiety and strife and challenges and all these things. And we read about it. We live it every day, things we have to overcome, fear of going into a test or a fear of meeting strangers or new people. There's all these different things. Why don't we take something that is pretty common, that is universally understood, which, oh, by the way, if you ever have to overcome in this type of situation, you have to overcome someone physically trying to hurt you, you're going to have all that. You're going to have to overcome fear, and you have to overcome the anxiety, and you have to overcome all those things that we know that we can also physically overcome someone trying to harm us. And it doesn't always look like fighting. It's not always punching or kicking somebody. And so we spend a lot of time talking about and being able to empower and have folks feel like this is an option that could work for them. It's not you have to go punch somebody, or you have to strike them with a fire extinguisher, or you got to do whatever. We try to find, what we call a continuum. People, whatever they feel comfortable with, whatever that they think they can do to keep themselves safe and others. So we spend a lot of time to try to bring that option back into the fold for people, because there are all those slim times when that is your only option. We want to try to create a way that people understood and felt comfortable with.
All right. And this is a great time for our first quiz question. Okay, guys? So, question. Most schools say they have an active shooter plan, but how many actually practice it regularly with students? What do you guys think? The answer is only about 67% do drills, so around 2/3, even though over 90% have a written plan. So they may have it, but not all of them are practicing it. And that is a stat from the National Center for Education Statistics. So it is so important to have this H.E.R.O and to know about it, but you also have to practice it in action. And like you mentioned, Adam, H.E.R.O isn't just for schools. You've seen it help in other places and situations, because kids aren't, and all of us, we're not in school all the time. You're at the mall and the soccer fields and convention centers, and examples that you had just brought up. Is there anything else you'd want to add around that, Adam, about why you think this clicks so well across everyday situations, or do you think we've covered it?
What's interesting, and this comes from talking from both students and teachers that have either they were a student at a school that used the program, or a teacher that had to teach the program, or even a professional staff member or a volunteer that just went through the training. One of the things that we discovered is that it is, I keep saying the word sticky, because it's probably the better word is being retained or easily retained. I recently talked to a student. She'd reached out to actually her former school principal. She had been at that school 5 years prior, so she had not had the H.E.R.O program for over 5 years. She went through it for the 2 or 3 years I think she was at this school. And here we are 5 years later, as she's now a young adult and ends up using her H.E.R.O skills in a very critical situation. And what she shared was that she could remember the responses. She knew basically what she had to do. And so from our standpoint, and just personally, when we talk about what you do every day, and it's a heavy topic, and we talk about safety and all these other things, it's hearing those stories that people not only remembered it resonated, but actually they can put it to use in those critical situations. When all reasoning goes away and the stress happens and all those things happen, there's still this beacon of light, this direction of, I can remember these very basic things. And for us in the design of it, and then now over in nearly 10 years of H.E.R.O, of hearing these stories, the one kind of common thing was, yes, it was scary and all the things that you would imagine, but they had one thing they could point to that they could hold on to then use to stay safe and to obviously come back and tell us the story. That's one of the biggest feedbacks when we talk about how it works in real life, is that it's adaptable far beyond the school, and that it's a skill that's being retained far beyond the years of which they learned it.
Yeah. Okay. And then now, guys, it's time for our second quiz question, which parlays really nice into this. And this one's a true or false. You got 50-50 shot at getting this one right. So true or false, talking to kids about safety drills makes them more anxious and increases the likelihood of violent events. Because this is a question, right? A lot of people are like, we don't want to talk about it because we don't want to make things worse. Well, the answer is false. Studies show that age appropriate, that's key, age appropriate, well designed drills do not increase fear. And in fact, they actually reduce anxiety by building confidence and helping kids feel more in control. And that is sourced from Everytown for Gun Safety. Because that's a question, I'm sure, Adam, right? As people are listening, this is like, oh, I don't even know how to talk to my kids about that. So let's talk about the tip and the takeaway, because I know I went through the training as part of my school. As people are listening, is there a version for parents that don't do it through school that they could go through this, or resources? Or I guess my question is, what's one simple thing that parents listening can do today to help their kids feel safer, and as adults as well, whether they're at school or a game or just out and about? Like, what would be that tip that we can take away from this that people could implement?
Yeah, so there's actually a couple things. We are releasing our parent app actually by right around the time or shortly after this podcast airs. One of the interesting things when we first started, I mentioned we got going in 2016. Our big fear was like, oh, parents, what are the same thing? I don't want to talk to my kids. I don't want my school to talk to my kids. And for years, we actually discovered that parents presumed that the schools were already doing it. So to go back to your first quiz question, like most parents assumed not only you get a plan, but they were practicing said plan. And so the appetite for it in the early days was, okay, yeah, great, sure, no problem. Probably about 4 years ago, all of a sudden parents got really pointed on, my school is not practicing and nor are they talking to the kids about it. I should be doing it at home. And just the overwhelmingness of parents wanting a home resource. We originally designed the program for educators, kind of by educators. And so now it's been the couple years of research to make it parent appropriate. And when I say parent appropriate, understanding what's going on, how to take it as a parent. You're not a credentialed teacher. You're not going to read a 6-page lesson plan. You're not going to do all these things. Let's make it short and simple. So from our point of view, our resource will be parent app releasing this school year in the fall. But the one takeaway, even if you know nothing else, you have no idea, you're not interested in H.E.R.O or anything else. The one thing I would say, if you're going to talk to your kids about anything, is simply have a plan. It is if just the simplest plan. It doesn't have to be a great plan, but if you have a simple plan, if anything happens, we're going to meet at the car where we parked. If anything happens, we get separated, it's very, very simple. It can be very benign. It can be, you don't talk about weapons or guns or anything else like that. A very, very simple home plan of what to do in the most common things that may happen. We get separated or you get lost, or if there's something that happens and it's scary, you're going to listen to mom or dad. Without, in the preschool program, we kind of have a line that says, parents and teachers are the ones I trust, and I always listen without argue and fuss, right? So it's like in something that is scary, no matter what, listen to mom or dad or the babysitter or grandma or grandpa or whoever it is, right? Just very simply having a family plan will go far beyond any specialized training, or if we have to doing lessons or these other things. Those are all great and they're amazing supplementals and they will definitely get you down the road. But if you do nothing else and simply have a plan, you're going to be far safer than one without.
I love that. I just had this visual pop into my head where I'm like, well, I know what I'm going to be talking about with my family at dinner tonight, right? That could be like just tactically, guys, like, oh gosh, I listened to this interesting podcast and it was saying we should make sure we have a family plan, talking about it with your spouse and then making sure like you can just bring it up casually in conversation with the kiddos and like align on what is that family plan. Also makes me think too, because I have a teenager now, as like I drop him off and he's alone and on his own in the wild, is to your point, is just like making that part of my, okay, hey, if anything were to happen, just go here or whatever it may be. So adding that in, I've never said that. Like usually it's call me if you need anything, but just thinking that extra step without having to freak them out, but just to say, if anything were to happen and you leave, we'll just meet at this destination. Would that be a good thing to say to my teenager as I'm dropping them off?
Yeah. So the interesting thing, most families go to the 5 places in or around their house that they always go. They usually go to the same mall or restaurant. They usually go to the same friends' houses, right? We kind of get in a routine, right? And so when we talk about the planning, okay, let's take the top 5 places we go to. And in those top 5 places, let's find a meeting area if something goes wrong, we get lost or separated, a safe place. Because if we can pre-plan or prepare for the places that we normally go, then it's really simple. Then from a neuroscience point of view, the things that we've talked about and thought through and practice of, you're going to be able to recall far faster and quicker than those that we had not, especially in that kind of that fog of adrenaline and fear and all those other things. Even so far as if the kids walk to school, right? In your route of walking to and from school, you identify 1 or 2 homes that if something happens, you could run to get help. It looks like a safer or a business that you can go into. It's just these little simple things that if you have no other plan, if nothing else, we at least know they can get to a place, like you said, then to call me, right? Because pretty much every kid is armed with a phone of some communication device of some sorts. They can only use that device if they're in a safe place to do. And that when we talk about, if we're thinking through H.E.R.O concepts, that hide component, right? Escaping and running and overcoming, we're not using our phones. We're not escaping and getting on the phone. We got to be in a safe place to stop for a second, to get into our phones, to know to call mom or dad or 911 or all these different things. The trick is we got to get to that safe place in order to do so. In the conversations of talking through that, I like question and answer type response as opposed to telling the kids, this is what I want you to do. And this goes really for every grade level. Start to ask some questions like, hey, where do you think a safe place is? Where do you think if you're on the way to school and something happens, where might be some safe places to go to call for help or to call mom or dad? If you're at your friend's house, if the mall that we always go to, if we're at the grocery store that we go to every Saturday morning for groceries, we're at the wherever. If you ask them, 2 things happen. Number 1, you get to see your kids' point of view of safety and what they believe to be as safe. But number 2, because they're coming up with the ideas and the plans, they're far more apt to A, remember them, and B, actually want to do them as opposed to what mom and dad tells them, especially once you click over into the teenage years. They want some autonomy, they want a voice, they want some say. Let's build the plan around what they believe is safe, and you just tweak along the way from what you know to be safe versus their perception. And that plan tends to work far better than just handing them a drafted 5-page plan of here's what we're going to do. So it's very much like you said, a conversation. Dinner doesn't have to be sit down, we're going to talk about a safety plan. It can be very conversational. And again, it just goes so much further in any instances in staying safe.
Oh, I love all those specific examples. That's really helpful, really clear. Thank you. I'm going to take that advice for sure for my own family. And I'll make sure, guys, in the show notes, when I do the description of this episode here, as you click through, I'll list out all those points that Adam just said too, so you can easily reference them to go down that checklist of things that we need to think about as we create our own family plan and our own family safety plan, whether that's at school or out of school. So this is beautiful. As we close, Adam, thank you so much for this. Tell us how people can connect with you online, with your organization, if they're interested in H.E.R.O, like talk to me about all the things.
Yeah, so our website is safekidsinc.com. Super easy to get to. If you go to our resources page, we've got a ton of family stuff. We actually have a family planning guide, especially for the little ones when we talk about safe places to go. That's literally designed, filled out with your information, their friends, where we're going to meet. It's a little fold up, put it in the kiddo's pocket. So for the little ones, that's helpful. How to talk to kids about stuff. So we have a lot of infographic, a lot of just family resources there. To reach out to me, it's adam@safekidsinc.com. Believe it or not, I do answer all my own emails. It might take a day or 2 for me to get there. As you can imagine, there's a lot going on, but you will actually get a response from me. Happy to answer those questions. There's so much noise kind of in the school safety place. Everyone's selling a trinket or technology or the news or the media, wherever it is. We really try to cut through a lot of noise. Let's just talk about safety. How do we keep people safe regardless of whatever view or whatever angle anyone's coming at it? Let's just talk about how to stay safe. And so our resources really pointed to that. We really talk about just the core basis of safety. I don't care how someone's trying to hurt me. I don't care why someone's trying to hurt me. If we can't prevent it, let's try to have the resources in which to stay safe in whatever event. And again, we're trying to recover and get back to life as per normal. As I said, the app is going to be forthcoming. There'll be some stuff on the website about that. It will be available if your school happens to use the H.E.R.O program. It will be available to parents through their school as well. So we're just really trying, at the end of the day, the things we talk about, kind of our big 3. We want to have our teachers and educators stay safe. while they're at work and beyond. We want all the students there to not only learn how to be safe and feel safe and stay safe and all the things, both at school and outside of school, but also our communities as well. And that includes our parents. Everyone within that community has the ability, really the right to be able to feel safe and be safe. And that's really when we, at the end of the day, everything that we do is centered around how do we make that whole community, regardless of what's going on in the world, how do we help stay safe in our communities to go on what we should be doing and not worrying about violence or worrying about those other things. Let's get back to what we should be doing in school, which is learning, and what we should be doing as families and communities, which is growing together. Keep an eye out on Safe Kids. Like I said, there will be more forthcoming throughout the school year, more parent resources. We've poured heavily into that. And so we're excited to go really now beyond the schools and reach into homes directly and be the voice that can help direct these conversations of safety.
I love that. Thank you so much. And one other thing I just want to add too, from when we were talking about the drills, I feel like another action item, parents, that you can take away from this too is knowing that all these schools, most of them have a written plan for these safety drills at school itself, but not all of them are practicing drills. If you don't know if your kids are doing drills, this is a great question to ask the administration and be like, hey, what is the plan for safety drills? When do you do them? Or ask your kids, are you doing drills? Just make it a point of conversation. Because I know at my kids' school, they actually block a whole week and they do drills through H.E.R.O, and they're doing different things each day. And it's not scary. My kids have never come home terrified. Like that stat says, they actually are like, oh yeah, I know what to do. And like, they just feel much more confident and they know exactly where they were supposed to go and what they're supposed to do. And even yesterday, Adam, I was telling my kids, oh, hey, tomorrow I'm talking to Adam. He's the head of the H.E.R.O program you guys do at school. And then they both said, oh, H.E.R.O. And they said the acronym and everything that it meant. And oh yeah, we do this and this. It's good. You're right. It is sticky, like you were mentioning, because my kiddos definitely are remembering it. So thank you so much for everything that you've been doing just in general to keep kids and communities safer with your vast history of you working in this as well as running your company. So thank you so much for everything. I'm excited to see the parent resource as well. So that's nice, guys, listening, whether it's through your school or whether you want to do it yourself. It sounds like it should be both. There's ways that we can have these conversations and they don't have to be overwhelming. It's all about equipping us, as we always talk about on the show. This is not fear-based. This is about equipping us to have more confidence to be able to do what we can to keep kids safe, whether it's our own kids or other kids around us. So thank you so much, Adam, for coming on. This has been great.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I love hearing that. And like I said, at the end of the day, if we can make everyone feel a little bit safer, we've done our job. So that's amazing.
Thanks so much for listening today. I hope you're walking away feeling a little more prepared and a lot more confident about how to keep your family safe in the everyday places you spend time. Remember, you don't have to tackle everything at once. Start by having one simple conversation around the dinner table tonight. Identify the top 5 places that you tend to frequent. Ask your kids, like Adam suggested, where do you think a safe place would be if something unexpected happened? It's a great first step towards creating a family safety plan together. If you'd like to learn more about the H.E.R.O program or explore the parent resources Adam mentioned, check out safekidsinc.com. I'll link everything here in the show notes so it's easy to find. And as always, this show isn't about fear. It's about equipping you with practical tools to protect kids in your life and around the world with calm and confidence. If you found this episode helpful, please consider sharing it with another parent or caregiver who'd benefit from it too. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for caring so deeply about keeping kids safe. Until next week, God bless.